Welcome to our presentation on the practice of ghosting. You've probably heard the term ghosting and may be even aware of what it means. It has nothing to do with Casper, but it refers to a certain type of behavior, in this case, in the workplace. Ghosting has always been around, but in recent years it's become much more common. Ghosting is the practice of ending a relationship with someone, like a recruiter or a hiring manager, by suddenly and without any explanation withdrawing from all communication. The business definition is a bit longer. Ghosting is a colloquial term used to describe the practice of ceasing all communication and contact with a partner, friend, professional acquaintance, or company without any apparent warning or justification, and subsequently ignoring any attempts to reach out or communication made by said partner, friend, professional acquaintance, or company. Simply put, it's disappearing with no warning and blocking all further contact. We're going to review the definition of ghosting, and then find out who does ghosting and why ghosting is done, and how ghosting can be reduced. People who ghost tend to have certain characteristics, and sometimes the economic environment encourages ghosting. People starting in or already in entry-level positions or who work in service professions are more likely to ghost. Strong job market encourages ghosting due to the lack or repercussions and more openings than there are candidates. Companies that don't make a connection have employees and candidates with no ties to the company. At first, you may wonder and be concerned if harm comes to that person or if they have a problem. As time goes by and you can't contact the individual, you tend to just write it off and move on. Sometimes, when it becomes obvious the person is avoiding you, anger will happen. Anger can also happen later when you find the person is active elsewhere with no problem, and you realize you were deliberately snubbed. In a professional situation, ghosting is agreeing to a job interview and then not appearing and not explaining why and refusing further communication. In a professional situation, ghosting is also agreeing and accepting a new job offer and start date, and then on the start date, not showing up with no explanation and refusing communication. The prior two are the most common practices of ghosting. Note that 71% of workers in job search admit to actually ghosting. Another form of ghosting is quitting a job by not showing up for work one day, not communicating your intention to quit, and refusing any further contact. 41% of that 71% think it's perfectly acceptable to ghost their employer. But employers do it too. 35% of that 71% says it's unreasonable for an employer to ghost an employee. This is a bit of a double standard here. It's okay to ghost an employer, but an employer shouldn't do it themselves. The most common is not letting a candidate know the progress or the decision to go to someone else. Here's an additional reason for ghosting by a job candidate. And another reason for ghosting: the job wasn't a good match. People ghost because they want to avoid a potentially uncomfortable conversation with another business associate, such as a boss or a recruiter. They'll ghost because they're changing for more pay and unemployment is low, so it's easy to get another job and people feel it's okay to immediately jump to a better offer. An attitude of, you'll dump me, so I'll dump you, since their company has no connection to them. A candidate may use your job offer to negotiate better terms with another employer. Or the employee may choose to go to some place where there's a connection between the employer and the employee, and they like that. It's like the employee makes a difference. Ultimately, however, Ghosting is immature and unprofessional. Companies can counter ghosting by doing certain things, such as engaging potential talent before a position occurs. Being proactive is maintaining a connection with your talent pool, not just contacting them when you need someone to fill an opening. Improve your recruiting process to make that a connection. Research shows that people will accept actually a lower offer if they have a great impression during that process. But one of the biggest things companies can do is not engage in ghosting themselves. Communicate clearly and promptly with candidates. Preserve the connection with your potential hires. Improve your onboarding. A prolonged hiring process produces a situation where candidates feel more likely to ghost. Tying after employment benefits, such as paying out vacation owed, to not ghosting can work to agree with companies that already connect well. They rarely make an impact on companies that don't connect with their employees. There are some consequences of ghosting for individuals, but not a great deal. Some companies may restrict the payment of certain benefits from going to people who ghost, such as accrued vacation. This might not be legal in all states. Your chances of returning to a company you ghost are pretty slim, or more likely, never. Burning bridges is never good. The person you burn you may need help from or work with in the future. Leave that door open. This is especially true to people who are just starting off in their career. You may get a reputation if you ghost frequently. There are many industries that are close-knit and word can get around. The consequences of ghosting for companies. There are more consequences for companies. Even so, there's not a lot. They can gain a reputation for poor practices in hiring. They can become known for dumping employees. Never use a company's ghosting to excuse your own. Social media has been used to out individuals or companies. LinkedIn and Glassdoor are great examples of where this happens with their millions of viewers. In summary, ghosting is disappearing from a job, an interview, or a start date. Companies also ghost people, mostly by not telling them about their interview and progress. Not appearing for an interview is the most common form of ghosting, followed by not appearing on your start date or abandoning your job. There are fewer consequences for individuals who ghost than for companies, but there's not a great deal for either. And finally, companies can help prevent ghosting by improving their relationship with candidates and employees. Thank you for viewing our presentation on the practice of ghosting.